What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Hyperspace Hype. We have a full amount of content as well as a full crew once again. Joining us as always is Carson.
What's going on, guys? I'm sitting crisscross applesauce on my bed. I'm home for break, but I got my Star Wars posters back, so I actually looked the part this week. Excited to talk, especially Mandalorian Episode 4. It was a lot of fun, and we got a great new character, so let's just jump into it.
Awesome. Also joining us again is Evan.
Hey guys, what's up? It's been a crazy week of Star Wars. We got a lot of TV spots that I think I'm the only one who have seen, along with Nathan. But yeah, TV spots. Mando was fantastic. Can't wait to talk about it all.
Awesome. And also, Brandon is with us once again.
Hey everyone, it's good to be back. I am so glad to be back on the podcast talking about Star Wars and stuff. Mandalorian was great. I just finished Fallen Order. I've also been reading Lords of the Sith, so let's get back into it. Lots of stuff to talk about.
Awesome. Yeah, so we got Chapter 4 of The Mandalorian called Sanctuary, I believe was the title. Only episode this season, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, and I thought she did a pretty fantastic job. I really enjoyed this episode, probably a lot more than others. I feel like it might be my favorite. I know it's not a lot of other people's favorites, but I just really enjoyed the classic story that I know a lot of people said I think also happened in Clone Wars, just the story of protecting the villagers, teaching them to fight. I thought it was great. There's like so much to discuss. We got a lot of new characters introduced. Carson, I'm going to toss over to you. What was your first impression of Cara Dune?
She like stood out right away as kind of, and I love that, he goes into the little, makeshift cantina on this planet, and she immediately stands out as like this presence on this planet that he's like, it's already taken. Like, she's got some kind of stake. She's kind of, she's the one with the demeanor that like she walks around like she owns the place. And I've loved their little skirmish outside when we're kind of I think this is like, we're introduced to like his, I don't know what's like with his visor, he's able to see like,
like tracking
heat signatures or tracking. I don't know if this is the first episode we saw that, but I loved how it started with that, and then you knew it was coming, where she pops out and they have that quick little fight, kind of brutal action there, and then it ends with they both have their blasters over their heads on the ground, and then of course we have the infamous Baby Yoda meme from this week. They just keep coming, and it's I cannot resist. It's amazing. But and then just throughout the episode, she kind of developed this great kind of relationship with the character. I think it's one of the first times we've seen the Mandalorian character kind of start to branch out a little bit and talk to people, obviously with the villager character, which I'm sure we'll talk about more. But by the end, I loved how she is like kind of poking fun at his mask and stuff when they're like sitting outside after the whole retaking of the village and whatnot. She's kind of poking fun at like, so you just gotta keep your mask on, where you can just live with this widow and settle down, maybe not think about all this for a while. And I love that they're kind of poking fun, even though this is a serious show and a serious kind of thing with Mandalorian culture. I love how Cara just kind of like immediately breaks through the ice of that.
Oh, it's perfect. I was really impressed. The introduction of her character, like right away, just seeing her when they walk into that little cantina-esque place, I instantly got vibes of Aragorn from First Lord of the Rings.
Ooh,
like,
yes.
When they walk in, just her checking out our main characters walking in, but also disappearing. Like, it straight up Aragorn vibes. It was really cool. I really enjoy Baby Yoda as always, but just like seeing more of just like how much it really is just a child, despite the age, and also Mando developing more of his fathership, the Dadalorian persona.
The Dadalorian.
And just, they're hanging out. It's very much a father-son relationship between them, whether it's just like playing with items, don't touch this, don't touch that, stay here, don't do nothing. It's great stuff. It's just like the beginning alone, when he's flipping the switch, keeps telling him not to, and he just like slowly reaches again. Boop. Almost destroys the ship. Oh, it's so fun. But yeah, Cara Dune's character was a real standout, and I know we are going to see her again, but I hope we see her more and more. I hope she's not just only for this season. I really hope, like, they have really great characters. I mean, with Carl Weathers and Gina Carano here, I hope they are used more and more. I know there is going to be an episode where Cara Dune is with IG-11 at a point, so I'm excited to see.
It's also in the
when
cover art for the, like, if you go into Mandalorian on Disney Plus, there's a cover art with the Mandalorian, Cara Dune, and IG just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the crew I need.
Oh yeah, good point. Do we know where she went to at the end of the episode too? Did they just split off into different planets, or is she still on the planet?
She might have stayed because of
I think
like
she's
she's not the one getting tracked, and she was already there.
Okay, yeah.
I bet she stayed because, there'd probably be some stragglers coming. I would assume that's kind of my headcanon, at least.
Yeah. What do you guys think of the visual effects for the ATST?
Oh my god, it looked
Ooh,
fantastic.
I love the visual effects. Yeah, I thought they were fantastic. Like, I like the red design on the eyes and the way it was like slowly coming out of the trees when they were getting ready to attack. That was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's like this scary creature presence just emerging from the shadows of the trees.
Oh, I
It's the
love how
red
it had
eyes.
I love how they used the spotlight to look at all the defenses, and then they looked for any defenses, like as in like people, and then that one guy, that one moron, sticking his head up, he's like, "Oh crap!" Boom, start firing.
Oh man. Oh,
Man
it's
is
so
like,
good.
"Get
It's so
down!"
good.
And the
What
dude's
was
like,
the
"Oh."
when they're going out to like raid the camp or like scope out the camp, and like that blue stuff that they were drinking, and then it's like in a vat inside of the tent, and then they like dunk them in. I'm like, what is that? It's like blue milk, but
I was
like
wondering
glowing.
that too. Yeah, at first they're like, "Oh, that's just blue milk they're drinking," and then when they went inside that hut, there was like a whole bucket of them. I'm like, okay, that can't be blue milk, right? It has to be something else.
Maybe Star Wars alcohol glows. We don't know.
Maybe so.
Death sticks liquid.
I love.
Oh, you know what? It's got to be something to do with the fish in the beginning. Remember, because they like get the fish.
Oh wow, you're right.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
crow farmers.
They've probably like distilled something. I don't know what would you just like make out of that, but
Fish
Just the
juice.
krill blood, maybe. Right. I love their design. They're like a dog.
the
humanoid?
the
Ravengers.
the Ravengers. Yeah, I don't know what technically
They-
the term is, but
Yeah, they look like blue dogs and stuff, and then it reminded me of the that one like boxer from Tom and Jerry. That kind of
wow.
face.
I
Throwback.
know exactly what you're
I
talking
know
about.
what you mean. Yeah.
It also reminded me of kind of like Hondo and his pirates, kind of Clone Wars-esque designs, but not like too adhering to that, which is kind of like kind of cool to see that in there. But it's kind of a hodgepodge. There's a lot of different like archetypes of these kind of characters, and I love how they just like run around and scream. That must have been so fun on set to just like
Oh man. But the most important thing that was introduced in this episode, our very first live action Lothcat. I died. seeing it.
Lothcat.
It's
Yeah,
so good.
it was amazing. Like, and Dave Filoni had the biggest grin on his face in post production. Going about this episode, probably sitting there with John, just like, "Hey, we got this."
Oh man, just like seeing it for the first time, like you see this creature and it's like, it kind of looks interesting. Wait, oh, huh?
Yeah, I'm like,
It
oh,
is!
that's a Lothcat, and then it jumped out at Baby Yoda. It's like, Baby Yoda just like jumped back. It's like, the hell? I'm just trying to walk.
Yeah, that was probably the most
Oh,
adorable interaction between a Lothcat and Baby Yoda in the same shot. I'm like, oh my gosh, too much cuteness in one shot.
It's so perfect. I want one. Oh man, yeah. So let's talk about the villager lady that the Mandalorian's
Oh yeah,
family with.
that was my favorite part of the episode. I think her name was Omera. Omera is Omera. I know that for sure because of the subtitles. But yeah, she was easily my favorite part of the episode. I mean, in general, her relationship with Mando, and like that little hint of a romance thing going on there. I loved all of it. And one of my favorite scenes of the episode, I mean, it wasn't necessarily between them. It was between Mando and Cara, where they were talking about how Baby Yoda, he deserves to stay here. He needs a happy life and everything. And Cara Dune's like, kind of like, yeah. I mean, he'll be good here. You kind of like, you can lay down here as well. You can like get a wife right there, have a kid, raise a family, and all this stuff. I'm just like, oh, this like really resonated with me too. Loved it.
Yeah. In regards to her character, initially my theory from seeing her in the trailer was that there was an old love of the Mandalorian, but it's very clear that this is their meeting for the first time. However, I still believe they may form something down the road. I can actually see the entire Mandalorian series wrapping up with him finally able to settle down in that village with her.
I so hope that's
totally.
the case. I would love that to be the case. I really hope we see her again too.
And me too, because what I tweeted about this after I first watched this episode, I love how this show is kind of like challenging and almost teasing like different ways of life that the Mandalorian is like kind of getting pulled into, yet it has that kind of classic Star Wars trope where by the end of the episode, in this case, we always get pulled back into the main conflict of things, like, you know, the threat of these people coming after Baby Yoda surfaces again. And I like how it's going to be probably more persistent and more, because we are at the mid-season point at this rate, and you know, it really felt like one of those episodes where you kind of get not a break, but it's like the conflict was a little smaller because it was, you know, on this planet. Obviously, we had an ATST, and we had you know, Ravagers taking over a village, but for a moment you kind of forget that the bigger conflict is at play with Baby Yoda and the Guild and the Mandalorians having to presumably go off wherever and have to kind of regroup. And that's what I love about this show, is it keeps like showing us these different sides of Star Wars each week, and we see the Mandalorian kind of be the focal point of going in all these different worlds and seeing how he fits in. And I think the girl that he met this week in the village was kind of probably the most human like conflict he's faced so far, and I hope we see more challenges like that, whether it's her or other characters down the line.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like you said, what you said is really fitting, because like in the first 2 episodes we see him as a bounty hunter, and he's really good at it. He's okay with it. But then episode 3 really went back to him being a Mandalorian, him having his duty, his responsibility as a Mandalorian, especially now where they're, in the last episode, their whole covert just got they got found out now, so they have to move out of there. So he has his responsibility as a Mandalorian, but then we go here, and then he also has like that, not necessarily responsibility, but he just has a different perspective on life, where he could just actually have a third perspective and just like lay down, be a farmer, have a family for once. But then of course he gets pulled back in by the episode, so very important stuff.
Right. And yeah, even further, it's like, you think about it, the grip of the Empire is still being one of those factors that's pulling him back into things, you know, because you have these kind of like dormant resources that are still spread across the Outer Rim and all these planets, and it's like it honestly reminded me of a little bit of Finn's kind of initial arc in The Force Awakens, where he's like, I want to run, I want to go on the outskirts, and you know, he finds this planet, and I can't remember the line, it's like, oh, no population density, and it's like, even after the Empire's gone, it's amazing that these resources are still spread out, and I love that this show kind of shows the aftermath of that.
One thing I will say is I think this season might wrap up with him going back and just living the life there with that woman, being able to finally rest. And I think something either at the end, very, very end of that episode, or at the beginning of season 2 is going to have to pull him back into the whole having to be an outlaw again.
Oh, interesting take. 'Cause I took it more as like Nathan said earlier, like towards the end of the series. I mean, granted, I would love to see Omura as soon as possible. I love this episode, but just seeing him by the end of this season, I think right now, like as the end of the episode really focused on, was like he has a bigger thing at play here. I think this season's end's gonna wrap around like him taking care of Giancarlo Esposito's character. Keeping Baby Yoda safe. Maybe he comes back by the end of the season, like to keep Baby Yoda there again, and then just leaves again. Maybe. But yeah, it does make for a very interesting start to season 2, whatever the finale is.
Yeah, I think that could definitely be a likely outcome. Because I don't know if Baby Yoda's going to constantly be hunted. You either have to take out the faction that's hunting Baby Yoda, or if that faction's too big, there just is no rest of Baby Yoda. He would have to be on the run forever, and God forbid it comes to a horrible conclusion where Baby Yoda doesn't make it.
Don't even say that.
No.
Don't you dare.
The internet would never forgive.
I know. They would not. But if it was in the grand scheme of a bigger story of the Mandalorian's arc, it would be interesting. I don't want it to happen. I want nothing but safety for the child of all of the Star Wars fandom now. And I wanted him to live on that planet. I was ready to say goodbye to him at the end of this episode,
too, yeah.
But then that bounty hunter shows up. And it scared me so bad for the second time, thinking Baby Yoda might have been shot. But then he was saved again. But still, the fact that he's just not safe, it breaks your heart. Yeah. And then like all the children that he was playing with has to say goodbye to him, and just like the fandom, they're all
the girl's
crying.
Like, I miss you so much. Like,
oh my god, yeah, they're like, I miss you so much. Oh my god, when he's getting wheeled away, he's like, I'll remember you all in my dreams. I'm like, no,
stop.
Breaks your soul.
He's like being friends with them. He's like eating frogs in front of them. They're laughing at him. He's like spits it out.
Oh my god, wholesome. It's too perfect. It's so good. There was one point.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. There was one point in the episode they were talking about the Mandalorian's armor and whatnot, and then once he is alone with the food, he does remove his helmet, and I wasn't fully expecting a face reveal at that moment. But I was expecting, like, maybe in Empire Strikes Back, Vader behind the head shot at least. Didn't even get that.
Oh, yeah, dude, we had the same thought. Because I thought I was going to pan up just a little bit to see Pedro Pascal's, like, the back of his head. But we didn't get that, which is pretty funny. Mm-hmm. But it was interesting how in that same scene he said, like, he did take off the mask yesterday. So he does take it off to eat. I think that's about it. He probably does sleep in the mask, too. So it's pretty funny. But that scene in particular, it really just, and last episode too, where they're like so dangerous to take off the mask. I think it's a guarantee now by the end of the season, not the series, but the end of this season, that he's definitely taken off that mask. We have to see his face.
Please, I would love it. I would love like you can make the final shot, his face, and also in a horrible situation that leads us like, oh, I need season 2 right now. I can imagine that happening.
Yeah, I am also on the train of there will be a face reveal by the end of this season, and I hope it's it could be in a scene with the villager girl, or I think it's gonna be I don't know. It's so tough because it's like I need to see where. Especially, it's like there's so many like loyalties and tests that he's facing right now with like the Mandalorians, and I'm trying to think of like what would be a powerful moment for him to kind of like, I don't know if you guys want it to be like a scene where he like intentionally strips it off, or do you guys think it's gonna be maybe where it gets kind of damaged in battle and it kind of just like falls off and he has to just keep going and fight or do something?
I've always imagined it to be a factor of battle damage. Like I think on the first episode I brought up, in the podcast, the first episode I brought up, I could see a Captain Phasma situation happening, like showcasing an eye through the pierced armor or something like that. But after experiencing this episode, I wouldn't be surprised if like maybe some status quo of how the Mandalorians handle themselves changes in compliance with like different situations. I don't know, and then maybe just like out of an act of selflessness or something like that, or maybe like forced humility through an enemy. I don't know, like having to just like ultimately choose.
That's an angle.
Removing
Imagine
the
a
armor.
scene with Esposito, like taunting him or something.
Yeah, it's
Like
like
he gets
full.
like, what if he gets captured, and then like he has like he's tied up or something, and
I wouldn't like that. And they forcibly take his mask off.
yeah, I don't know.
I wouldn't.
No,
like
not. I would imagine like he has to forcibly make the decision to remove it himself.
Yeah, I'm with Nathan there. I think it's all gonna
I
be
see.
about
Sorry, I
him.
misinterpreted.
Yeah, I think it's about him finally coming into his own and taking his mask off.
Yeah.
But also, when did this whole I might be sounding like a non-intelligent Star Wars fan, but like, when did this Mandalorian culture thing of not taking off the mask off for a long time happen? Because in the Clone Wars, they were always taking off their mask, right? Like
I was about to ask that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it had to do probably with some. This is total speculation on my part. When they had to quote unquote go into hiding or whatnot, go back to episode 2 or 3 where the dude he was kind of had a skirmish with was like, yeah, we only can go out one at a time. It's almost like they're simultaneously preserving the literal what the face of the Mandalorian is, and also like the safety of like knowing who is a Mandalorian because of how rare they are. But it's like we don't know how deep into this time period that developed, because it certainly wasn't a Clone Wars era thing. I'm pretty sure.
Well, she did ask him when the last time somebody saw his actual face, and he said it's like when they found me, when the Mandalorians took me in. That was the last time they, like, no older than them playing out there. That was the last time somebody saw my face.
Oh shoot!
Yeah,
So
and those kids were like around what, 9, 10?
Like 9, 10?
So like, yeah, so he's had the helmet on for at least what, 20 years, 20 plus years, which is insane.
Yeah, but then like,
well,
okay, I was thinking about, so Rebels is before A New Hope,
yeah,
but yeah, I don't know like how long, and maybe it has to do with different Mandalorian factions, but I don't know. Like they did the whole
That's
Siege
what
of
I was gonna
Mandalore
say.
thing, didn't they?
yeah, I'm leaning towards that too. I think the people that took him in are particularly strict in the Mando culture, like not related to like what happened in Rebels with Sabine. They were always taking off their masks. They didn't really care. So yeah, I think it just might be like a planetary thing. I'm not sure, but even like
It could be different. It could be different, like different Mandalorian factions that follow different rules, or like maybe it's like an Old Testament way,
yeah, it's true.
for their culture, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like even in Rebels, I think if I'm remembering correctly, like Sabine went to the planet of Mandalore. I think they were on Mandalore, and
Yeah.
then even then they were just like
they took their helmets
off
Yeah,
willy
when
nilly,
they're-
and they were on Mandalore. So I'm like, what other
They were on
faction?
Mandalore, yeah.
What other faction took our Mandalorian, the Mandalorian, in where they're so strict with it? But also maybe, it might not just be like a Mando culture thing. It could just be himself too, because he's a foundling, so he has to really, how should I say this? Like really come into his own as a Mandalorian. So maybe that's why he's really not taking it off until he proves himself.
Maybe it's like an earning a respect thing,
Exactly,
you know?
yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
like it's not like a presumed cultural standard. It's more of a, okay, I'm gonna prove myself to you by committing my identity literally to this face.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like you're saying, it's more of a it's more of like dignity thing and respect. It's like she asked him, she was like, hey, what happens if you take it off? He's like, oh, nothing, I could just never put it back on.
I love that.
That was a
line.
great line,
Honestly,
yeah.
one of my
It's
Yeah.
like, it's just like saying like you can't you can never live with yourself the same again if you take it off.
Yeah, it's like he would just be completely throwing away everything he's trying to live up to.
Mm-hmm. which is an important line because I think by the end of the season he's gonna realize like what Omura said, but she didn't really say this out loud. But it's like you're more than the mask, you're more than the armor. So I think he's really gonna come into his own as an individual Mandalorian character, Mandalorian hero, be himself. I think by the end of the season he's gonna reveal his name and he's gonna take his mask off.
Yeah, and it's definitely going toward. And what this show has done so well is shown that the way that he chooses to live now, it's flawed significantly. I mean, look what's happened. He's pushed the Mandalorians off planet. He's like getting all. He's got this best car and he's got new shiny armor, but he's drawing all this attention to himself, and kind of associating the Mandalorian rap with all of his actions, and he's seeing that, kind of the other side of the coin to this identity is like everybody that he encounters has preconceived notions about him automatically, and everyone is just asking about the Mandalorian when he really is a person underneath all this, and he makes emotional decisions based on that.
Which makes the character of Baby Yoda so important, because like ever since the first episode, Baby Yoda is that anchor to his humanity.
Exactly.
It's really starting to really flesh him out as a character more, and I really love that. It's a great, genius piece of storytelling there from Jon Favreau and Filoni.
It's so good. This series is already so good. It's fantastic. But okay, so we dived into a lot. We haven't gone as long as like other episodes, but this was a more like personal, smaller episode, I felt. So is there anything more we want to discuss about it, or you think we're good?
Yeah, she's amazing.
Gina Carano's awesome.
She came out with a recent tweet, speaking of that, or on Instagram at least, just praising Bryce Dallas Howard, how she was a fantastic director and how she really helped work with her and stuff like that. Very compassionate and always kept her comfortable on set, which I thought was very nice.
Yeah, we need to talk about Bryce Dallas Howard too, because I was aware that she directed before, but I think it was only previously a short thing, or I'm not sure, in between her starring roles that she's done. But she knocked this out of the park. Like probably this is probably my second or third favorite Mandalorian episode in terms of directing. It was really well done, and I think it was a really great blend of effects again. The ATST stuff in the dark was great.
Oh yeah.
Just the way that the battle went in between, like, they're getting in the trench hole, and like Gina's like shooting up towards the ATST. It all flowed so well, and I really think that the introduction of two strong female characters here really is a testament to how well she worked with them on set and made them feel comfortable and made them feel like a really awesome part of the show.
Yeah. One thing I will say about this, I love that both Ron Howard and Bryce have both directed Star Wars family now. I love it.
Yeah. Can we I would like to make Solo 2 happen with both of them directing an episode on Disney Plus. I think that'd
do
be
it.
Cool.
Yo, that's a good idea. Yeah, she should come back for Solo. I also just wanted to mention, like, a lot of people and fans were calling this episode filler, which I thought was hilarious. Cause that's like the opposite of what this episode really was.
Really no way it's filler. This is probably the most emotionally invested and developed test for the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
exactly, which I thought was very important.
We've had the anchor of Baby Yoda, and we've kind of finished that arc. I know we talked about last week of kind of like these mini Clone Wars arcs, and this week it's a whole. We have all these other anchors coming in and challenging him to make decisions against. Do you want to help these people? And we need to talk about that scene where the two villagers come to his ship, and he's like, it's kind of comedic, but it also kind of makes him choose. He's like, oh, we gotta go travel all the way back, and it like guilts him into it. And he's like, I'm gonna need those credits. I thought that was a really well executed scene.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I love their the Mando and Cara Dune's mutual respect for one another.
Oh, me too. Yeah,
It's
they
just
really
so
had a
good.
great relationship right off the bat. I did love. I forgot to mention it earlier, but Carson was talking about how like they had that great fight scene at the beginning. I just love how every single episode so far we've seen the Mandalorian use that flamethrower. He was getting ready to bake Cara Dune for no reason, which was
He was
very
gonna
hilarious to me.
He's about to slice that flame right over, and she like stomps it out, I think.
And then he's just like, want some soup? like, boy, you just like tried to burn her head off, and you're out here asking if she wants soup.
I do love how she pulled. I love how she pulled a Batman when they're in that makeshift cantina. He looks up.
I said the
she's still
same
there.
exact thing, Brandon. I was like, she just pulled a Batman. Only Batman can do that. What are you doing?
So good. So good.
We could talk about this for hours, but we gotta move on.
We
Yeah,
probably
we can move
could.
on now.
So, plenty of Star Wars things in the world of Rise of Skywalker. It does not stop. We are in, as of now, the month of the Rise of Skywalker. Crazy. A lot of different things dropped. First off, before we get into footage, not TV spot footage, even though I was weak and Evan has seen everything. There were posters that dropped. There were amazing posters that dropped for all respected formats and stuff. We had different posters for IMAX, Real D, 3D, everything. There's so many beautiful posters. Guys, everything that dropped, which ones were your favorites that came out? Okay, I'll go. Because I have them laid out in front of me. The IMAX poster is probably my favorite, the one that has Rey in the foreground, but also a mixture of Leia and Luke fused together into Kylo Ren's helmet. That also is showing off a bit of hair coming out of the helmet for probably Ben Solo. You know,
They
just
ain't
like
being subtle at this point. That's all I'm gonna say.
Totally.
It's
No,
literally
man,
Ben's coming out of the mask, like
the cracks coming out of
especially at the bottom too. You see, I think it's like the cracks at the bottom of the mask are like really red in particular. Like it looks like it's heated up. It's like molten.
Oh yeah, they're like super heated. I don't know how that's gonna play into effect. I wonder if the helmet will itself actually glow in the film, like not being fused, but like in wearing it. I don't know if it has a function or anything.
It could.
But it could be interesting.
He'd be like, hey, Ray, time out on this fight. Look what I can do with my helmet.
Berserker
Look at me
mode.
sparkle.
I wonder, like, because we don't know like how he really put. What if it? I don't know. It's not possible because like, I was thinking like, what if he somehow like had like leftover kyber from something, or if it was like, this is so fanboy like theory right here. But like, you know, like there's some leftover kyber at Vader's castle, and then like he takes it to this person, and then like fuse it into the helmet, and it, like, glows or something. But that's so but it does look
Vader
like it
castle.
has like a purpose of like glowing or something. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm diving too much into this, but
Yeah, you could be right.
I mean, you probably are, but it's fun.
It's cool. Yeah, I'm also with Nathan too. I really love the IMAX poster the most out of everything we've seen so far. And just looking at it right now, I really like how the Skywalkers are in the background and Rey is like in the foreground. How she just had this huge impact on the Skywalker saga, the Skywalker family as a whole. She might not be directly related to them, but she's definitely had a huge impact on each and every one of them, especially Ben Solo and Leia and Luke. So yeah. And the two suns in the background there, it's really beautiful. And yeah, we got that purple Reylo stuff.
The Rey
too.
pose.
Really good.
Oh yeah, balance. I noticed it's the same Rey pose that was in the trading card character posters, but I think it's used even better here, like silhouetted and just the color. We're just doing art review at this point, but it's beautifully done. Also, the Real D 3D poster dropped.
That one's my favorite.
As well. That one's so good. That's the callback to the New Hope poster back at its theatrical run with on the mound of all the heroes standing together with the villain. I don't want to call Ben a villain, but you know, the big
He's a
Vader type
villain.
mask
He's
in
an
the background.
antagonist.
For now.
Antagonist.
He's a villain.
He's a conflicted
yeah,
anti-hero.
I love that poster too.
Still a
and
villain.
You guys notice? I
Or-
think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan, because I know you have them pulled up. But
Mm.
is the mound like on the other side? I don't know why I love that so much. Like it's just like flipped, and because I think Rey is like on the left side, and the
Yeah,
actual
I do
mound.
I do have it side by side. It actually, because yeah, with the sweeping shots of like everything next to the helmets, it actually is a reversed vertical balance left to right. So
Oh,
they are on opposite sides. Actually, zooming in, I never even noticed that they actually have the Knights of Ren like to the far left.
yeah, they're the very very far left.
They look so good.
So good. All the heroes along the right side, including Rose down there.
Yay.
I see you. Yay! And just like I see Poe's X-wing and the Millennium Falcon just heading into a swarm of Star Destroyers, and then Kylo's helmet just looking fantastic. It is very well done.
Yeah, this is a pretty badass poster. It's not my favorite compared to the IMAX poster. Also, like, if you have them like so close together with the original A New Hope poster, you can just really tell the difference between like hand-drawn artistry and then the one that we have now for the 3D poster here. But it's still really cool. I really like it. I like the Knights of Ren in the left-hand side there. Just also symbolizing that they're going to be on Pisana, so I'm very curious to see what they do on that planet.
Oh yeah, I had already made a side-by-side comparison, fused together photo of both posters. It's super good. But yeah, the IMAX one is definitely my favorite. It's currently my phone wallpaper. I mean, it had to be, not just for my IMAX bias, but I really do think it's the best one. Especially just seeing Luke's head go, like the top of his head just infusing into Kylo. It's just the symbolism. It's not subtle, but at the same time, it's so masterfully crafted.
Agreed. I
so-
love all these posters.
Yeah, so the art, fantastic, but also we got a beautifully done Rise of Skywalker featurette that chronicled the Star Wars films from start to now of their mythos and carrying. And what I loved so much was just seeing the cast point of view from everything. I definitely want to like deep dive into this because I loved seeing just like as far back as Mark Hamill doing an Empire Strikes Back interview, like, I hope this one works out. I hope we don't flop. I hope it really brings something to the table. And now here we are 40 years later. The big impact it's had on so many lives and generations, absolutely now.
Mm-hmm.
Cinema. Like, it's so good. There's so many beautiful points. I mean, there's plenty of passing torches in different ways. My favorite thing, one of my absolute favorite things, was seeing Peter Mayhew chatting with Jonas Mo
Oh my god.
about the Chewie role and like inspecting different points of footage and just coaching him through. It's so beautiful to see.
Yeah, and there's literally a shot, I think, in there where it's a shot of on Peter Mayhew, and then it literally racks focus to Jonas's eyes, and it's just it's like the perfect behind the scenes passing the torch that we've been talking about.
Oh, it's so perfect. And they had to put in some Carrie love, and they always do. It's fantastic. They also have the new cast talking about their experiences. And I was saying before we started recording, I'm so nostalgic for Force Awakens interviews. Just back at that time before we had new Star Wars and we were leading up to the first iteration of it. It's unlike anything. Like, it's insane that it's already been 4 years since then, and we're at the end of a trilogy on the 5th Disney Star Wars film now. After a live-action TV show's debut, we've clearly come a long way. But it's just so great to see the original cast. Again, just like seeing John Boyega getting that Harrison Ford action figure signed by him. It's so beautiful.
Do we talk about the Warwick Davis, like present time Warwick Davis with the Wicket costume?
Yeah, so I
Talk
guess
about that for a second.
I guess Evan and Carson, you guys didn't see this until I mentioned it. But yeah, Warwick Davis is in one of the shots, and I thought it was just him in like one of the random costumes just reminiscing. I was like, okay, cool. But then like when you actually stop, it's present day Warwick Davis in an Ewok costume without his mask on, and he's looking at a Wicket mask that looks aged next to another Ewok costume. So we're going to be getting some Ewoks in Rise of Skywalker, it looks like, as well as the return of Wicket. And the fact that Warwick is back playing him is fantastic. But what do you guys think about that happening?
I am surprised. Like, and then you reminded me that we have some unfinished business with our good old Death Star that we gotta go back to. But so I think that maybe it's gonna be a brief. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, because do you think the Death Star ruins are, they're on like the physical planet of Endor?
Well, now do you?
It's definitely
You guys-
on the planet of Kef Bir, where Jana is from. That's where like it's confirmed to be.
That's-
At.
Oh, okay. So
That's
then-
where
That's part
that's
of
where
it.
the
That's part of
water
Endor
planet.
system,
That's
though,
the
right?
water planet. That it is,
Yeah,
but
like
that's
Brandon said,
it's
also
part of the
Endor
system. Okay,
system.
that's what
Yeah.
I figured. But
yeah, but they confirmed that just to be like the water world. When they're earlier in the trailer, in the actual forest area, do you think that's Endor's moon?
It has to be.
I mean, no, I thought it was the same planet, right?
I don't think. I feel like the atmosphere is a lot.
Oh wait, no.
different.
Are you talking about like the forest at the beginning of the trailer?
yeah, the forest
Yeah,
at the beginning.
where she's training.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I also think that's going to be a new planet. I think
Yeah,
that
I
was like
can-
in one of the marketing stuff.
I can
Maybe
see
I'm
that
wrong,
because
I'm
I
not
feel
sure.
like I do feel like some of the shots where she was training did look a bit more tropical forest than the traditional redwoods that they
Mhm.
filmed in. So yeah, I mean, I get they could do either or. I mean, they could probably find ways to blend it. Maybe just like different points of the atmosphere of the planet. I don't know.
Exactly. My running theory right now is that I think wherever we find Jana at, wherever Finn and Poe meet Jana, maybe Wicket just with them right there. Like maybe he's just already hanging out inside Kefbir or whatever.
I
just
guess
on that
Wicked
planet
could go
already.
off.
I don't-
road.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, we could go to Endor, but I just feel like that'll be a lot of just random fan service just to go to Endor when most of the Death Stars are on another planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're like, okay, why is he off planet now? Like, you're like, what? It honestly makes me think of, like those absurd, like, theories that, like, okay, first of all, the Death Star couldn't blow up because, then the forest moon would be uninhabitable because whatever. I'm just like, oh my gosh, what if the planet's actually, or the moon's actually ruined? No.
Do you guys think they'll actually finally confirm if like the forest moon of Endor like had pretty much an apocalypse because of all the fire that started? Do you
Funny
think
you say
Mm.
that. I think like earlier this year, Star Wars tweeted out how Endor had some kind of a force field or shield around his planet, so like none of the debris affected Endor. I think that was just a random fact that they just put out on.
I
Like,
think it
Twitter or
would have.
whatever.
I'm sure they would have felt an effect from that while they're celebrating that night in Return of the Jedi. So, it's interesting. God, we're like theorizing so much off of just a quick shot of Warwick Davis.
I know.
Like there's this whole epic reel of emotion, and it's just like, wait, is that Wicket?
Is that wicked?
Wait, come
But
back.
there's also a lot of stuff to talk about in terms of like the new movie coming out, because at the very end of the video is Kylo Ren maybe looking at Rey. He's on a desert, so I'm thinking that's the Pisana.
He
And
could be.
he's,
He
like,
could be
hoarding
looking at his Knights of
something.
Ren.
Yeah,
I
he could
wouldn't be
looking at the Knights of
surprised.
Ren, maybe, but I don't think he's ever gonna like talk to the Knights of Ren without his helmet on. I think he's hoarding his helmet in his what looks to be his right hand here.
There's
I mean,
so much.
This could be right
happening.
after the battle with Rey on Pisana. I don't know. We still don't know at all what happens after
There's
that flip over the TIE silencer.
Yeah, we don't
So,
even know if that's a battle, really. I mean,
What's
like,
gonna
dude,
happen?
there's
like, I
There's
don't
so
know-
much happening on Pisana. Pisana has so many different scenes. Like they're going to that village event. They're on the skiff. They're flipping over TIE fighters. I think there was the Knights of Ren shot on
And,
Pisana.
yep, we got your favorite boy band showing up.
There's so
Bad
much, and then
boys.
there's that, and then also there's that confrontation of that we saw recently in the behind the scenes of Ben and Rey walking toward each other. I don't know. I did see a shot of the Kylo Ren, his ship, the TIE Silencer, from the back. Remember that that car
Ooh,
commercial
that-
dropped,
that
and
Porsche
I used that
commercial?
shot.
Porsche commercial.
Yeah, there's an alternate. There's a slight alternate angle from the same behind shot in the same way it's shot, same cinematography, that popped up, and I was like, oh, okay, so that shot probably is in. I didn't think it would be. I thought it was just promo. But no, I think there's a real possibility. It doesn't matter to the whole plot. I just think it's cool. Just making podcast conversation. But it's fun to see because I slipped that into my trailer edit just because, like, hey, the shot looks cool. But now I feel justified.
I'd like to say Kylo's new TIE fighter is called the TIE Whisper.
Oh, yeah, I keep saying TIE Silencer, but yeah, Brandon's right. It's a TIE Whisperer.
Was the last one Silencer?
Last Jedi one was Silencer.
I think so. Yeah, it was Silencer.
Okay.
So this is supposedly an upgrade or whatever? I'm not sure.
I guess Kylo's getting quieter and quieter.
Yeah, his TIE fighter did get destroyed on the Supremacy.
Ben's getting louder and louder. That's my theory of the day.
So I think we can definitively know that the film's going to end with the Star Destroyers getting taken out by Ewoks, obviously. So I'm excited. Yeah. Obviously, they're going to catapult all of the rocks from the atmosphere into space.
I need rock content back from... we're going to have Space Horses on the Star Destroyer, and then we're going to have rock catapults. And then we're going to have lots of angry people online saying that the rocks cannot go through the gravity. That's what I mean.
Oh, my God.
You also have
However, did the bombs drop with no atmosphere, Last Jedi?
You'll also have Gungans launching boomas.
Oh, yes. Brandon and I have discussed this. We need...
Gungans!
We need Gungans.
I've been saying, I really
don't have a boomer.
And don't be surprised because we have everybody showing up.
I do want more Gungans.
I will be surprised if JJ hates Jar Jar. Didn't he have that one interview where he said, I'll have a skeleton of Jar Jar in The Force Awakens? Something like that. Yeah, that guy hates it.
Stop.
Or maybe this could be a Chris Terrio last-minute thing without JJ knowing.
I wonder if you could actually pull off... I've discussed this previously. Do you guys think if they were to ever do another Gungan in Star Wars, would they go full CG like they did, or would they try a more practical effect?
Well, knowing JJ of how much time he spent on all the practical effect creatures in Force Awakens,
it doesn't have to be JJ. It doesn't have to be JJ himself.
But yeah, I think regardless, I
would think they would
practical.
blend.
They'll blend it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It intrigues me so much.
I think you're gonna need some help with those Gungan ears flopping around.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you could achieve that. I've been so fascinated with Jar Jar's story, like post Return of the Jedi when they released that in the Aftermath novel.
That was so sad. Oh my gosh, poor guy.
It was, man. I want to redeem him so bad. I want to give him a good send off of helping.
We'll just keep it in the books.
No.
Keep it in.
I'm putting him in an episode of Mandalorian. You can't stop me. As if I'm going to get hired by Lucasfilm. Oh, man. It's a lot of good stuff, though. Is there any more Rise of Skywalker stuff, though? I feel like there should be.
Not really. It's just crazy how we were talking about everything that's going to go on Pisana, and JJ with that new clip, I'm not going to say what's in the new clip at all, but JJ was like, oh, yeah, this is towards, like, the beginning of the movie. So I'm like, oh, this happened to the beginning of the movie?
Huh.
So, like, what is this movie? This movie's going to be insane. I have no idea what the timeline is. Like, usually by this point, I could kind of theorize what's going to happen in The Last Jedi, but now for Rise of Skywalker, I'm even watching all the TV spots, and I still don't know the timeline of this freaking movie.
And that's amazing because The Last Jedi, even though we knew the timeline, we're like, okay, we're probably going to end up on Crate towards the end.
Yeah.
You know, but watching The Last Jedi, I'm like, you know, you're in the climax of, like, them fighting for the saber or whatnot, and you know, Finn and Rose down in the hangar and all that, and then you're sitting there watching it for the first time, like, we still got to go to Crate.
Exactly.
Because you remember the speed shots.
And there's billions of surprises along the way we didn't know. I mean, even though you'll see a TV spot for Last Jedi where Rey's holding the crossguard saber,
I am
ultimately
still so mad about that.
That was wild.
I know,
wild.
but ultimately, it didn't have a effect on the story whatsoever. Yeah. But then you watched Last Jedi, and there's plenty of secrets you didn't know, like Luke projecting himself across the galaxy, the freaking hyperspace jump to split all the ships, stuff like that. There's still plenty of surprises, and like I feel like we're getting a lot from the footage for Rise of Skywalker, but I feel that with every film, and then you go into it for real, and you're like, you know what? I really want to see these moments again. I can't find them online, and I really want to. I guess I gotta go see it again.
JJ said that. I think in one of the interviews he had this week, he's like, there's a ton of surprises that people have not guessed yet. He really likes all the fan theories and stuff, but yeah, there's, regardless of how much stuff we're seeing, there's gonna be a ton of surprises. People have been asking me like, have there always been this many TV spots? But I just think, like, compared to The Last Jedi, which had a lot of TV spots towards the later end, I just think we're getting a lot of stuff like early on, like this Thanksgiving week and stuff. But it's pretty normal.
I remember back at Force Awakens, they did a lot of TV spots, sure, but and I was watching them, but I remember I straight up dreamt about a TV spot that had the shot of the Falcon flying over the Jakku Desert, and like it gets shot, and it's like a front view face, then it like moves over to the side, and I was like, I swear I remember watching that, but it was a dream, and then like that day or a day after, they drop a TV spot with that footage.
Whoa.
And I'm like, I'm probably watching way too much. I'm having force premonitions. I gotta get out. But fun stuff. Weird moment, but marketing's fun.
Marketing is fun, and at this point, for me, it is a constant battle of my own, like, wanting to go look at all this stuff, but also like, we're 5 films into this Disney era, and we kind of know how things operate. And I kind of hit my peak at Rogue One, where I saw every TV spot, everything. And for me, there's nothing that's worse when you're in a big event movie and you pull the moment, you're like, all right, here comes the TIE fighter, Jin's going on the bridge, here it comes. Like, you're when you are taken out of the movie to a point where you like are connecting the dots by yourself and not letting the movie kind of like whisk you away. I think it's just it personally, it obviously doesn't ruin the movie. It's just kind of like, it's a different first experience. And so for me, with this being kind of just like, the grand finale of the Skywalker saga, I'm just trying to limp across the finish line and make it so I can like, enjoy my first viewing as much as possible. And it's hard. I mean, me and Brandon are constantly texting every day. Like, we cannot mute enough people in enough terms. It's like
literally, like you'll have every word muted, and I'll be to the point where I can't see like, oh, so and so follows this person, so and so like this. I can't see that on my feed. Yet people are still retweeting. Oh my God, Leia holding a lightsaber. Oh my God, Duel of the Fates. Oh my God, Raylo. And I have that word muted too.
So speaking of Leia holding a saber, since we can talk about it.
Yes, because we have all
shot that Carson
accidentally or purposely seen.
I think that confirmed my theory from episode 1, where they're gonna have the Maz handing fixed saber to Leia poster, because I mean obviously you just had the normal saber back then, but you can easily the revamped clamp of the emitter or the switch. I've been playing a lot of Fallen Order, and they have all of these terms in my head of building a saber. Yeah, I feel like they'll just digitally add that over, like they are with Leia herself anyway, into a new setting and all that. I'm so excited to see how they implement that. The fact that they actually took Carrie's footage, they didn't repurpose the lighting on her. They repurposed an entire set for the actors to fit her in.
Right, and
that's
they probably they're not even the set, all the way down to the dialogue. They probably, I'm assuming if from the trailer shots of like the Rey and Leia hug, if it looks to be a similar background of that shot. I have not seen it in motion, so I have no idea. But I'm assuming that this is a Carrie's footage matted into a newly written Rey scene. If that, and I'm not, I don't know. It kind of seems like a scene that would be in the midpoint of the movie, that would kind of be Leia. It may even be Leia's send off to Rey, because we don't know what Leia's fate is in this.
Live, she must live.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think about? Do you guys think it's that same kind of continuity of things with a scene with Rey, or how do you guys think they're going to repurpose it?
I definitely think it's the scene with Rey. They're just going to repurpose it. It's also getting me a little bit nervous because Like, yeah, we got that new shot with her with the lightsaber, but again, it's that same shot that we've seen in the trailers before, where she's hugging Rey. I assume she's gonna give the saber to Rey before she starts running off. So I'm very curious to see what other things they have with Leia going on. But also,
I wonder.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll have any more extensive dialogue regarding different topics. I know this is back with Force Awakens, but I wonder, since scenes with dialogue can go on like way longer than any of us would ever have anticipated. And I know there's not too much with Leia, but maybe in conversation with Rey, like what if she has something to say about her son Ben to Rey, and they implement it into the plot point of whether it's confrontation, redemption, stuff like that. I would hope so.
I hope so too.
I'm not,
it's funny you say
I'm
that,
not
Nathan,
expecting it, but
because like J.J. Abrams had an interview. It's like, this is like from an Italian magazine, but I have this right here, where there's a quote where J.J. Abrams says, "Her only son ends up at the head of the organization she's fighting, but despite everything, she continues to have hope, which means she's convinced she can save him." And that's from a interview with J.J. Abrams. I forget what the magazine is. It's some like international magazine. So she still believes in saving Ben, regardless.
Yeah, and that's
going to
be probably
Resistance Reborn says otherwise.
Interesting.
Don't do this. Don't do this to me.
But either way, I think it's definitely a major part of her arc in the Rise of Skywalker. However limited it may be, is I think, we see Luke reigniting that spark at the end of The Last Jedi, and entrusting her with Rey, and then Leia's able to instill that confidence in Rey at the end shot in the Falcon, and I think Leia's going to be doing a lot of reevaluating in terms of forgiveness of how Ben's life is gone, but also forgiveness in herself in this movie. I don't know how they're going to fit it in, but I think that's going to be a big part of hopefully the scene that we're kind of speculating on. And I'm not sure, because I know there's a lot of footage of I guess probably this lightsaber scene, and then I know JJ said there was a lot of cut stuff with Leia talking about presumably like the grand scheme things of the universe and like the New Republic, like how we see that shot in The Force Awakens of the plant when Starkiller fires, and it's like that it's like the only shot of civilians we see, really, I'm pretty sure, when like the red is coming down. I'm pretty sure there's scenes between Leia and whoever that character is talking. I don't know if it's politics or if it's
yeah, you're right, Carson. That's all politics. She's talking to her about kind of like that could lead into like the origins of the First Order in a way, because they're talking about how the Republic isn't helping the Resistance as much as they need to be, and then that ends, of course, with the Republic getting blown up. Kind of like being like,
so that could be some
Leia
big
was right.
That could be some big picture stuff earlier in the movie, like setting the stage. I've always said since The Last Jedi, I think the beginning of this movie, especially with the time passage, needs to reestablish just how maniacal and gripping the First Order has spread, especially with how dwindled the rebellion is at this point. And because we see in The Last Jedi crawl, like Snoke has sent his legions to, I can't remember what specifically the line is, but I would love if we somehow use that Leia footage to kind of reinstate that the First Order has these grasp on these planets. And then this is pure speculation, but maybe like we cut to like a Kylo raid scene. I still don't know what he's cutting through on that one planet. I don't know if it's Knights of Ren.
That red planet, I'm excited to see what
that's another of like, we don't know what these planets are, and I'm glad that we don't, because we're so close.
Oh, okay. So with Leia, you were talking about the Republic cut scene. I can imagine, since that Republic character she would have been talking to is no more, I can imagine, since they implement new actors in the scenes, discussing like you said, Carson, just the state of the galaxy with new people. But I was also just now thinking if they incorporate Rey's hug with Leia, like we saw in the trailer, I have no doubt they have multiple takes of that, different versions. So I would love if, hoping with my my Bendemption train, if I could get a Ben Solo Leia hug scene.
Oh man,
I will fall apart and
I would
die
die.
happy.
I really
But
want
I
it to
die
happen.
satisfied,
I
dude.
doubt it will, unfortunately, but I think we have to get some kind of Leia and Ben scene towards.
Acknowledgement. It's got to be
Rebellions.
some acknowledgement
Agreed.
or something.
Yeah.
Rebellions are built on hope. I am hoping. Well then, Rise of
Canon
Skywalker.
ratings.
It's exciting. So that's pretty good. I think we're coming close to. I have no idea where we were because we spent like 10 minutes goofing off beforehand. But Rise of Skywalker. It's exciting. Once again, Carson, I am sorry. Please take a seat.
I am seated, my friend.
Okay, it's because we will be further discussing Fallen Order. I'm gonna try not to go for a straight 5-minute review rant like last time. I don't know where it came from. But I will go ahead and give off some impressions of, now that I have officially finished Fallen Order, spoiler free because Carson's here. Also, Evan has not finished the game. Me and Brandon have though, and I'm excited to further talk about it because definitively Fallen Order is, like a lot of people saying, it's not only such a good Star Wars game, it might be my favorite Star Wars game. Plenty of love for previous games like Fallen Order, I just played it. Force Unleashed, fun stuff, but when we were talking like the mystic stuff of the Force, that was a bit overpowered. When it comes here, they have such a respect for it that I love. Cal Kestis is an instant favorite character. His interactions with different characters that pop up are fantastic. The main crew are great. I would love to see more of them. Obviously, I do want a sequel game if they ever decide to do it, but I also am intrigued by the prospect of if you could introduce Cal Kestis into a live-action format. I would love to see. I know that tends to happen with a lot of animated stuff. Maybe through something in Disney Plus or somewhere. I would love to see Cameron Monaghan reprise his role since, in real life, he looks like a bit older version of Cal Kestis. I feel like they de-aged him a tiny bit for the game. But the game itself is just fantastic. Like, the whole journey they go on and the treatment of the Force is beautifully done. And I cannot get over the soundtrack. I need an official release already because it's so beautiful. It had this combination that I felt like its main Star Wars theme that I also felt a mix of the E.T. extraterrestrial score at one point mixed with the score of James Newton Howard's Unbreakable theme at different points, melded together in the Star Wars theme, and I love those soundtracks to death. So it all combining into one blended orchestra was incredible, and I can't stop listening to it. And I'm always constantly replaying. It's still loaded up on my TV right now over here if I were to show it. It's an obsessive game to play, and just to go and unlock everything. It's a little annoying to have to backtrack because, these puzzles are kind of tricky even though I'm on easy mode, but it's still a fun ride. Hopefully that wasn't a full 5 minutes, but I am going to toss it over to Brandon since you also finished the game, dude. What did you think of Fallen Order in its entirety?
Yes, I also finished the game. Actually, literally like 30 minutes after we wrapped up last week's podcast. It was hilarious. I'm like, we just talked about how I'm like halfway through the game and all that. Yet I had like one mission left. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah.
Yeah, like a day
overall,
after I finished.
Overall, it's a fantastic game. I like the second one Nathan was saying about bringing Cameron Monaghan back, hopefully to do a live action series or a sequel to the game, or hell, DLC. I'd be fine with DLC. But overall, it's a fantastic game. The final mission will shock you. The ending will shock you. And overall, it's just fantastic. I love it. Evan?
Yeah, I'm like the only one who hasn't finished it yet. Brayden was telling me how I have like 2 more planes left to go. Honestly, after I finish up this podcast, I might just finish it tonight if I have the time. But I'm loving the story. I'm loving everything about it. You guys seem to like the character Cal more than I do. I think he's a very good character. He's a fine character. I just don't see that much complexity with him yet. I mean, I'm almost finished the game, so we'll see how it goes. And I miss what's it called? The second sister. I think she's a fantastic character. I want to see more of her, and I think I will in the next couple of missions I go on. But yeah, I'm loving the game. Brandon's getting me really excited to finish it because I'm all for an exciting ending. And yeah, just in general, concerning the sales of this game has been hugely successful. I'm very happy about that. I hope EA and Respawn especially do more games like this, whether it's a sequel or we have another spin-off with a new character, a new timeline, whatever. I'm just all aboard these single-player Star Wars experiences because it's very refreshing after the last two Battlefront games.
Absolutely. It's so fun. You're definitely in for way more surprises. I know Brandon specifically was like, hey, hop on a call with me because I really need to hear your reaction to the end of this game. And I was like, all right. And I just start going, and then just like, boom, you don't expect, and
He's
it's
like,
crazy.
There
is a point.
What?
Yeah, I was freaking out, and I won't get into spoilers, but like they go to a point in the overall arcing story that you get further down, and it made me quite emotional to a point. I started tearing up, dude. I felt really sad about the way things were going. Not in a negative way, just in terms of like connecting to the story. I just had such a great time. I love these characters. I mean, Grease and Sear are fantastic characters. I think I'll keep it at those characters because I don't want to ruin anything for Evan or Carson. But they're a great crew, and I love their chemistry with one another. I love their ship design. I love the whole interior of the ship that they hang out in. It feels very lived in, like whether it's a point where they're just sitting down and eating, or they're actually like around the holo table trying to plot out a new navigation, or even straight to the cockpit. Like the whole place is beautifully laid out, and I would love to see it in live action. I would love to see it further in game story. I'm excited. It's such a good game. If you haven't played it yet, I'm sorry, Carson. If you haven't played it yet, go and get it as soon as you can. It's just a fantastic time. So Fallen Order, fantastic. Before we get out of here, I like to do in the little canon readings we were doing last week, and I got it queued up here again with a new official title for it called Sacred Jedi Text, because it was such the biggest meme in 2017. Why not actually have it be our official canon reading title, Sacred Jedi Text? New segment as of now. Not everybody did complete readings, but I think some people at least did a little bit. I know, Evan, I think you said you were finishing up some Dr. Aphra stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm loving Dr. Aphra. I finally, because Comixology is having like this buy one, get one free thing for the Marvel, so I used that to buy some of the Dr. Aphra comics, and I'm really loving it. So like last week I talked about how Dr. Aphra was encountering the rebels and how they were constructing like this weapon, like this miniaturized Death Star weapon that they want to use in order to assassinate the Emperor. And so now I've read a little bit more, and so Aphra really kind of backed off on that. It's not her thing. But then, of course, she has a lot of bounty hunters coming after her. So right now, one of the interesting things is that she's talking to one of the Empire propaganda leaders, and they are trying to hatch a plan to overthrow the Emperor, which is very funny and interesting. It's kind of things you don't really think about in Star Wars, the whole propaganda aspect. But they've been really digging into that in the last couple of issues for Dr. Aphra. So I've been loving that. The comic in general is just very fun and awesome. But real quick, I also have been digging into the Fallen Order comic books just to get a little backstory for Seer and her master. I forget his name right now. But yeah, her master.
Eno Cordova.
Yep, thank you, Brandon. Yeah, exactly. And it's a 5-issue comic book. Right now they're on issue 4. The 5th one's coming out later. I would have wished that these 5 issues would have came out before Fallen Order just to get a little backstory. But regardless, the miniseries is fine. It's pretty cool. We're getting some backstory for Seer and for Cordova and for the second sister as well. That's pretty much it.
Alrighty. Carson or Brandon, did you guys do any form of a reading at all?
I have. I don't know if
Okay.
Carson has or not.
Carson, did you?
I've done a little bit. The most I've done actually is taken Brandon's recommendation of getting Resistance Reborn. I have this problem where I like canon reading too much that I just download and buy every book, and then it just sits there. And so, quite literally, the sacred texts have been sitting in my metaphorical Octo tree this week. But I cannot. I will restate again that you should really go check out Dooku or Jedi or Lost.
Dooku Jedi Lost.
Dooku Jedi Lost.
Dooku or Jedi or Lost.
Or Lost. Or just search all three of them. You'll find it.
You literally said it in order.
I cannot recommend it enough. And if I would also just branch out and say, if you haven't tried a Star Wars audiobook, I know audiobooks aren't for everybody, but they're truly kind of a different experience with sound effects and music. And I'm really enjoying A New Dawn right now in that way. And I think it adds a layer of engagement that I think makes these stories really pop out and makes them memorable, not only from a story perspective, but how they're performed and how everything's mixed together. So I cannot recommend them enough, even though I am the fool this week that didn't actually do any reading.
So I've been reading the Lords of the Sith novel. Well, not reading, listening to it while I work. And the audiobook is fantastic. The way they use Darth Vader's breathing in there, whoever does the voice of Palpatine is great. Whoever does the voice of Vader is great. It really adds a menacing side than they already are to the Empire, Vader, and the Emperor. Like them on their own mission with some Imperial guards. And something that really surprised me was nobody's allowed to see the Emperor's powers other than Vader and the Imperial guards themselves, only because the Imperial guards are trusted enough not to be like, oh guys, the Emperor has powers, look at that. So personally, I love the book so far. Twi'leks, they have a good rebellion going on, but they're not the brightest of people because they're trying to kill Vader and the Emperor, and that's not going to go well.
Wait until you get later into the book when there's some particular action set pieces that are you'll see, like, it's insane.
Yeah, I'm about to get into that too.
Dude, literally,
I think my favorite character in that book is Cham Syndulla, and he's a great character. I really like the way they portray him in that book.
Love him.
Yeah, see, Vader is badass as hell because the dude was like blocking ship shots at him, and he deflected it into the ship itself, and it went down, and he ran over. There's like no survivors. Yeah.
Disclaimer: the Force is not a superpower, but Vader is cool.
Vader's cool. And I love the fact that he was able to he was flying at another ship, and he was force choking the pilot from his ship, and it was just so awesome.
Oh my god!
Yeah, that was straight out of Horror Scene. The whole beginning of that book, where he's just invading that ship, and it's he's getting closer and closer and closer, and I love that part.
Yeah,
it's so scary on audiobook too.
Dude, it's so menacing on audiobook when Cham is on the intercom, and he's like, I forget his name that got killed, but it's like, hello, and you just hear Darth Vader breathing. He's like, who is this? He just puts the mic up to his face. I'm like,
scary.
Oh shit.
Giving me anxiety right now.
Yeah, that's a really good book. Great call, Brandon. I'm so glad you're reading it, because it probably still is one of my top 5, maybe top 10 favorite canon books in general. It's a very fun book.
Yeah, I think it's still top 5 for me.
Oh, it's great. I love how it kind of humanizes Vader again a little bit by when he force meditates, he always dips into his anger by looking into his past.
Yeah, those scenes I love how they're both written and performed in the audiobook. is like I don't know. I've had some issue like the Thrawn novels. I'm not particularly fond of like his like internalizing and how that's kind of written, but I think in Lords of the Sith, kind of like going shifting the perspectives between almost an Anakin and a Vader, and like I think it also dives into like his fear of showing vulnerability to the Emperor later in the book is really an interesting perspective, and it makes you kind of think about Vader in the early stages of Vader. You know, you don't think of him as an absolute kind of villain to a point yet, because I mean obviously he's grown into the dark side and is villain, but like there's still depth underneath the mask, which is interesting to dive into a book format for sure.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite things of exploring the Anakin inside Vader that still lives, that he's still trying to suppress or he's working through. You know, whether it's the grief of Padme and just like all the Jedi and friends he'd lost. Fantastic stuff. I know they're dipping into that a bit in Vader Immortal. I still need to get to episodes 2 and 3 on that. I haven't played it, but I've been watching the
Is that like the
gameplay,
the VR missions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's telling like a chronological story? Right?
Yeah,
like,
it's a whole thing.
Because I know there was the booth at Celebration. I just never got a chance to go over there.
Yeah, no, there's a whole arcing story that requires you, the player, to aid Vader in unlocking the secret that's found on Mustafar. It's interesting. I don't want to go any further in case you guys want to check it out. I recommend you do. But sticking with the canon novel stuff, I also, in terms of perspective, have been reading from a certain point of view, because these stories are beautifully written, all in their own special formats, because they're all different authors for each story. And I didn't spend a lot of time reading. Like literally just today on my break at work, I read this quick chapter, and it was really like bittersweet in a way. The chapter was called Beru White Sun Lars. It's Aunt Beru, her story. I was really surprised because it starts off like from her perspective, and she seems to know everything that's been going on with Luke by A New Hope. Like she straight up brings up destruction of the Death Star and meeting the princess and stuff, and I'm like, well, how is that possible? And then you realize she's telling the story from the beyond in this perspective, and I don't know if that's meant to be taken any form of canonical way, whether it's the afterlife, but it's just interesting how it is. And it goes into her perspective of raising Luke, and like how when Obi-Wan came to the end of Revenge of the Sith and handed them Luke, she said that was both the best and worst day of her life, because it was the best because it was revealed that her and Owen could never have a child of their own, but it was also, so it was great in that sense, but it was also the worst because happiness wasn't a guarantee for this child come the end. And she was very much right, because they get burnt and to a crisp by the Empire, and she regrets that Luke ended up having to see that, but is also thankful because had he not, he probably never would have went off to save the princess and stuff. She went into like a whole different story of how like she really wanted to insist Luke go into the academy because she sensed such the father, all the Anakin that was resided into Luke, and Owen took that the wrong way, of course, because we know what happened to Anakin. But whenever Beru said that, she meant the best of Anakin in Luke, the noble warrior, the hero that's eager to fight for what's right, you know, the freedom of people, and also the best of Padme as well, because she did know her for a brief moment, even to a point, Shmi Skywalker in Luke, in a bit of a sense, that little bit she also knew, and she went on about how she felt being with these Skywalkers, you know, at Shmi's funeral and all that, and Attack of the Clones. It was a fascinating read to see all this, and how the perspective was also going into how Beru could have not gone into this whole life with Luke. Had they put him to a different family, she could have lived out some form of a dream of serving blue milk at a cantina or something. But also in the sense that they're still on Mos Eisley, and back then the cantinas were even more vicious, so you could get shot by just walking in. It was interesting laying groundwork of just the whole perspective of life on Tatooine and just like the not very exciting life that you have to live, but the hopefulness you have of raising a child in such a condition. And it was fascinating and bittersweet, the fact that Luke did end up getting the best of a journey that they could have ever hoped for him. It's just sad that not everything could have worked out and that there is such tragedy that you have to rise from. But I'll just cap it at that. It's because it's a whole long-winded thing for this pretty short story, but I just thought it was interesting to hear all these perspectives from Aunt Beru. I was really taken aback by it. I was like, oh wow. So
I really need to check out the all the short stories in that book. I think that the book came out in probably 2017, I think.
I think so.
And
it was for the 40th anniversary, so yeah.
Right, so it must have been. And I've been meaning to get to it because there's just so many different and I love the idea that each author gets a crack at a different character or different perspective. That I feel like that in and of itself is a testament to Star Wars expanding and becoming what it is today. And so yeah, I really need to check out that book.
Yeah,
just to
check
give
that out too, because like that.
Sorry.
No, you can go. Yeah.
Okay, so just real quick, just to, because yeah, I definitely recommend this book. Just to name off my favorites, if ever you guys want to check out at least a little bit of certain point of view, the chapter stories that I recommend checking out from it would be Master and Apprentice, Beru White Sun Lars, The Luckless Rhodian, Palpatine was a fantastic read, as well as There Is Another, which was the Yoda story. Just those have been my favorites so far, but there's plenty, like I think there's 40 stories for 40 years of Star Wars, so there's plenty in here that I still need to get to, and plenty that are just so fantastic. So I highly recommend. Those are my top ones, but read the whole book. Fantastic stuff.
Wow. Yeah, I've been meaning to really get into that book, because I bought it the day it came out because I was very excited to read it, but then all the reviews were saying like how it's a mixed bag of sorts. I never really got into it. But you're like giving off those like 5 lists or 5 particular stories to read, so I might just read those. I did read the Claudia Gray Master and Apprentice one, and that one was really good. That Aunt Beru story really took me. It was really fascinating, so I might just get back into that book sooner than later.
Yeah, I think I'm most excited next to check out the final story in it called Wills, and it's got the Jedi logo for the chapter art.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm interested.
And who's that one written by?
It is written by Tom Engelberger. Probably butchered that, but
I guess we'll find out who he is. He's probably written some other stuff.
he probably wrote Jedi Lost for all I know. I know he didn't. Probably not. Don't correct me. All 5 viewers that watch this. Engelberger. Yeah, okay. So
Dinkelberg.
Dinkelberg. So my recording's at an hour and a half. If this turns out to be even longer than the last one, I'm going to cry because I have to edit this.
We will trim it down, maybe.
Maybe, probably not. But I had such a great time talking all this stuff. Plenty of epic stuff. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more Rise of Skywalker stuff to drop. We're going to be talking episode 5 of The Mandalorian next time. The next returning directorial style of Dave Filoni, which I can't wait to see. Rise of Skywalker stuff, as I said. We're out of Fallen Order stuff, unless Evan can finish it. But
I will. I'll try my best.
Yeah, because then we need to at some point get spoilers for that. Maybe in a separate
maybe
recording.
around Christmas when I get it. And
yeah.
I'll rush through it. Well, I won't rush through it, but I'll promptly get through it so we can discuss full spoilers and story implications, because that would be a fun episode for sure.
Absolutely, and then I'm probably gonna jump on Resistance Reborn, my next canon reading. So it's all very exciting. But with that being said, I think we had a great story episode for all this. we got to wrap this up. So, as always, you can follow us on so many different platforms in the description, but I will go ahead and toss it over to anybody in case they want to say anything. So, Carson, where can people find you?
Just like last week, guys, you can always find me on Twitter at the Force Critic. I am not talking that much Star Wars right now on Twitter because I am trying to avoid all the new footage and international trailers and everything coming out, with the Rise of Skywalker only being 18 days away. So may not be as active on there Star Wars wise, but I'm always on Twitter talking movies or whatnot. So find me there. Catch you guys next time.
Awesome. Evan, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at HarrisEv9 on Twitter. We have a fun week of Star Wars ahead. We have like you mentioned, the Mandalorian episode directed by Dave Filoni, but also on Monday we're getting the cast Q&A on Twitter. I think it's going to be Twitter and YouTube, so that's going to be very fun. We might be talking about that next time as well. And the next time we talk, I'm probably going to have to finish Fallen Order, so I'll talk about that as well next time.
Turn down that game difficulty. Brandon, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at Phantasmic Ears on Twitter. I tweet Star Wars stuff, film stuff, and all the other stuff. So yeah, follow me over there, and yeah, thank you guys for watching.
And as always, you can find all of my stuff in the description below. Yeah, guys, it was a fun episode. If you enjoyed this podcast recording, hit the like button, subscribe if not already. If you want an audio-only version of this podcast, it's always linked in the description as well. Trying to work to get it off of SoundCloud to a more permanent location, because I think SoundCloud has a certain gap that you can reach before it's free, before the freeness is up. So we're going to be figuring that out. But in the meantime, if from all of us here at Hyperspace Hype, if you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe if not already. That being said, hope you have a great day. May the Force be with you always.